Order of the day, number 4.
Māori Purposes Bill, first reading.
The Honourable Tamapota.
Mr Speaker, kia ora tātou e noho nei roto I tō tātou whare. I present the legislative statement on the Māori Purposes Bill.
The legislative statement is published under the authority of the House and can be found on the parliamentary website. The Honourable Tamapota.
I move that the Māori Purposes Bill be now read a first time, and I nominate the Māori Affairs Select Committee to consider the Māori Purposes Bill. At the appropriate time, I intend to move that the bill be reported to the House by 30 July 2025. This bill proposes a suite of minor, technical and non-controversial amendments to Māori affairs legislation to provide entities with greater autonomy and decision-making power. Though the amendments in the bill are minor and technical in nature, they will have a significant impact on Māori entities by removing red tape, administrative burdens and modernising the enabling legislation. Modernising legislation aligns with the government's aims of delivering better public services by meeting good government responsibilities, ka wānatanga responsibilities. This bill will ease administrative burdens by removing unnecessary legislative restrictions, lowering both compliance and administrative costs. It also supports Māori economic development, as lowering compliance costs and reducing the resources needed to meet legislative requirements will allow entities to focus on growth and innovation, which can contribute to a stronger economy. The bill has been developed in consultation with Māori entities across the motu. Their input instrumental in ensuring the legislation will better meet the needs of Māori communities, both now and into the future. It reflects the evolving aspirations of Māori and ensures that the Crown continues to honour its commitments. The bill contains provisions that update and streamline a range of existing statutes. It proposes amendments to 8 acts and 5 regulations, as well as the repeal of 3 Māori Purposes Acts. First, the bill amends the Maori Community Development Act 1962, very well known, which established the New Zealand Māori Council, Māori Wardens and community officers. The amendments to this Act and the associated Māori Community Development regulations will allow Māori associations to hold meetings electronically and appoint co-chairpersons, which is what many of our entities like to do, as well as giving them greater choice and flexibility in how they manage their affairs. Second, the bill amends the Māori Purposes Fund Act 1934-35 and the Māori Purposes Fund Regulations 1937, very old, nearly 100 years old, Mr Speaker. The Act established the Māori Purposes Fund, which provides grants and loans for a range of activities for the benefit of Māori. These include the promotion of health, education, arts and crafts, social and economic welfare, and of course the preservation of te reo Māori. Modernising the Act will provide better mechanisms for administering the funds. Administering the amendments will allow electronic meetings, something in the new age, remove the requirement for resolutions to be signed by letter or telegram, and enable the chairperson to call special meetings. Technical amendments that you'd expect to enable these hui to go a bit more efficiently. The bill also contains an amendment to modernise the requirements for presenting the annual report and associated documents to this House. Third, the bill amends the Māori Soldiers Trust Act 1957, which was established for the benefit of Māori First World War veterans and a scholarship fund to commemorate the services of the late Tāpira Ngata for Māori. Modernising the Act will allow the Trust to operate in a modern-day context and better serve the descendants of Māori soldiers. Amendments to the Act will modernise the appointment, removal and resignation of this committee and appointment procedure for committee members, modernise meeting provisions to allow for electronic meetings, and modernising the procedure for the preparation and disclosure of the annual financial statements. Fourth, the bill proposes changes to the Māori Trust Boards Act 1955, something I studied a lot of many years ago. That Act made provision for trust boards to administer funds, land and other resources for Māori communities. Modernising the Act through amendments will strengthen the purpose of the Māori Trust Boards by addressing outdated administrative processes and making it easier for trust boards to fulfil their purpose. Amendments will do this by allowing trust boards to advertise board nominations online. New age, Mr Speaker. By changing requirements so that any newspaper advertisements only need to be for 1 day. Providing for electronic meetings and again co-chairpersons. Allowing the board to set the remuneration for the secretary. Clarifying the process for filling extraordinary vacancies and updating obsolete references. The fifth set of amendments are to the Māori Trustee Act 1953 and the amendments to this Act and the regulations associated with it, Note 2009, support the goals of the Māori Trustee by modernising legislation, removing administrative barriers, thus allowing the Māori Trustee to operate more efficiently, and I welcome the support of the Māori Trustee in this matter. The amendments will reduce the administrative burden on the trustee by adding a threshold when the trustee must report to account holders on interest on distributable income, and also change how distributable income from common fund investments is calculated. Finally, it will also modernise the language and terms in the Act. The sixth set of amendments relate to Te Ture Mō Te Reo, Māori 2016, the Māori Language Act 2016. The Act established Te Mātāwai as an independent statutory entity to provide leadership on behalf of iwi and Māori, lead the mahi around the mahi Māori, and in their role as kaitiaki of the Māori language. The Act's purpose: support the partnership approach to the revitalisation of Te Reo Māori, and amendments to this Act include adding raising awareness of revitalisation activity and encouraging, supporting and empowering iwi and Māori as learners and speakers of Te Reo as a purpose of Te Mātāwai. Creating regulation powers so that the names and makeup of kāhui can be changed easily. Can't wait to see some of my own iwi actually included on the schedule. And the name of a court can be updated in the schedule of courts where Te Reo Māori may be spoken. And finally, providing for electronic meetings and again co-chairperson arrangements. Consequential amendments have also been made to the Māori television service, Te Arataki Whakaata Irirangi Māori Act 2003. Finally, Te Ture Whenua Māori Act 1993, a very important act which reflects a long history to address challenges facing Māori landowners and the management and governance that goes with that. The Act as it currently stands aims to create practical solutions that enable Māori landowners to make decisions that best serve their aspirations while ensuring whenua Māori is protected. In addition to the amendments to the Act itself, the bill amends Incorporation Constitution Regulations 1994 and the Reservation Regulations 1994. Collectively, the amendments in this bill will add to the history and the herstory of Te Ture Whenua Māori Act and benefit Māori landowners by allowing trusts and corporations and reservation trusts to meet electronically and have co-chairperson arrangements, modernise outdated terminology, and addressing technical issues such as allowing the Land Court to exercise powers under the Property Law Act relating to easement and covenant provisions with respect to Māori freehold land and any other land that the application is related to in the court. Finally, it will also give the Māori Land Court the same powers as set out under Part 2 of the Contract and Commercial Law Act as other courts when considering contractual matters before it. In addition to the amendments I've talked about today, the bill also repeals the Māori Purposes Acts of 1937, 39 and 45. It's a tidy up of the statute books as those books no longer have any operative provisions. To summarise, the bill proposes a number of minor technical and non-controversial amendments which, if enacted, will enable Māori entities to improve and operate more effectively and efficiently without the unnecessary red tape and administrative burden. While the amendments in this bill are minor and technical in nature, they will have a big impact on the ability of Māori organisations to get on to do the mahi and to exercise their responsibilities in the vein and in the realm of rangatiratanga. We have a duty to ensure legislation is current, fit for purpose, and that addresses present and future needs. I'm confident that the amendments in this bill will do just this, and I look forward to the support of other members of this House. With those final words, Mr Speaker, I commend the bill to the House. Tēnā tātou, katoa.
The motion is that the question be agreed. The Honourable Willie Jackson.
Kia ora tātou, kia ora Mr Speaker. Not a very particularly controversial bill at all. Something that obviously we should all be supporting to get our so that we're able to get our communities up to scratch. This has been lagging for too long. Something that we should have probably dealt with too. So I commend the Minister for getting on with the business. It's really important that we get up to speed in some areas, Mr Chair. I would ask the Minister to have a think, and I'm happy to work with him on it, to have a look at the Maori Community Development Act 1962. It's updating that in terms of the electronic areas and the chairperson and arrangements. But the Maori Community Development Act of 1962 is an area that the Minister will know been a little bit controversial in the last few years, as we've had different organisations, Māori Wardens, New Zealand Māori Council, talk about Mr Chair, speaking about mandate and who should be representing them. So I'll be happy to spend some time with the Minister to go over that and some of the kōrero that we went through with New Zealand Māori Council, with Māori wardens. And that's the thing with the Act. We're talking about an Act of 1962, Mr Chair, being pertinent and relevant in 2025. So while we've got some of the technical sides set up, and people should be able to now, as we all know, carry out their meetings and their business online, there are other areas I think that the Minister might want to get into with regards to mandate, who's representing who. Have the I'm not an advocate for taking away New Zealand Māori Council's rights to represent Māori wardens, but that is something that needs to be traversed by the Minister. We put a lot of time in there in terms of the Maori Community Act, and really have a look at it, whether it's absolutely pertinent and relevant in 2025. Glad to, Mr Chair, to see our Turu Mo Te Reo Māori Language Act updated, clarifying the purpose of Te Mātāwai. It's important that not just the co-chair arrangements and support for our Te Reo Māori revitalization be addressed, but what must also be addressed, Mr Speaker, is the government's response to Mātāwai. When I was Minister, we had regular meetings with our Māori organisations, and so it's good to clarify that, but we need to whakatinana this kaupapa, we need to strengthen it a bit more. So on top of that, we would like to see the Minister's commitment in terms of funding for our reo Māori. Mr Speaker, it's good we've got this kaupapa up, but we need to get kaupapa up where we're seeing meaningful funding going into some of our really, really important initiatives. Māori Television is not on this. We've got Māori Soldiers Trust Act, Māori Trust Boards, Māori Trustee Act, Te Turu Mo Te Reo Māori, but Te Turu Mo Te Reo Ture Mo Te Reo Māori, I should say. Ture Mo Te Reo Māori is applicable in a general sense, particularly in terms of how we cover the reo in terms of Māori television and in terms of Māori radio. And so we want to hear from the Minister. What is his plan? What is his rautaki? What is his strategy in terms of advancing funding and pūtea for our iwi radio network, for our whakata Māori? It's not just about ticking a box and getting things going in a technical sense, but generally, obviously, this is a kaupapa that we as the opposition would always support, because this is something we would have done too, Mr Speaker, if we were the government. So commend the Minister for getting on with it and support this bill going forward. Kia ora tātou.
Koe te pika.
Huhana Linden.
Tēnā koe te pika, e tuana hau ki te tautoko I tēnei pire, mo te rōpū kākāriki hoki. On behalf of the Green Party, I stand in tautoko alongside colleagues of the House for the Māori Purposes Bill, and knowing that it's an omnibus piece of legislation that covers a range of legislation that have been, I guess, dated, have limited the ability of organisations to do their business in these modern times. I think they were still faxing and required to post out their mail, some of the groups. But now, with the amendments that have been made, it will support all of our groups impacted here to be able to be stronger, better now and into the future. So when I consider the Maori Community Development Act and the way that they can now have their hui electronically and also to have co-chair arrangements, yay, awesome. Also the Māori Purposes Fund and the regulations around the purpose, but also the way that they can have hui and the models, great again. We've heard in the past some of the challenges of legislation that is not appropriate and has not moved with the times. this type of legislation just coming through quickly and making these amendments really ultimately will help the organisations. So whether it be tidying up the use of te reo Māori in legislation, whether it's about enabling co-chair arrangements and the ability for organisations to have more flexibility in hosting meetings, being able to make decisions, moving beyond telegraph and post. It's great to see we've come to this point in time in 2025. So on behalf of Te Rōpū Kākāriki, I stand and we tautoko. Kia ora.
Jenny Marcroft.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on behalf of New Zealand First in support of the Māori Purposes Bill. As everyone so far who's contributed to this conversation we're having about the Māori Purposes Bill, put up with by Honourable Tama Pōtaka, there was wide support for it, which is great to hear. It continues the theme of the day, really, which is great to be a part of. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister noted in his contribution, this Māori Purposes Bill will provide a suite of minor and technical amendments to remove some of the unnecessary administrative burden so that these organisations are able to focus on growth, and it's good to see that Labour and the Green Party will also be supporting the legislation. Mr. Speaker, an omnibus bill, and the Māori Purposes Bill in particular, is all about tidying up amendments in legislation, and often they're being characterised as a wash-up bill. In fact, previously, the Māori Purposes Bill in previous iterations and previous parliaments have been called the boil-up bill. Everything gets chucked in the pot, and what a delight it is when it's time to sit down and have your kai, particularly if there's watercress. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to mention a few of the things in this bill, just very briefly. In terms of New Zealand First, we've consistently stood for policies that enhance equality, equity, fairness and efficiency within New Zealand's legislative framework. We recognise the significance of Māori economic development and cultural revitalisation and the impact it has on the nation as a whole. We believe also in practical solutions to improve governance, reduce administrative burdens and ensure resources are utilised effectively for the benefit of all. Mr. Speaker, we support the bill because it's going to reinforce fairness and transparency by modernising the legislation that does in fact impact on Māori governance and economic opportunities. These amendments will promote autonomy and efficiency for the Māori organisations, reducing that administrative burden and requirement, bringing ourselves into the future, or at least 2025, by enabling electronic meetings and things. People do still have fax machines. It's actually unbelievable. Not many, but a few. But now, having meetings electronically, I know when I was part of my hapu's governance team, meeting always in the north, a lot of travel to do that, but to be able to do it by Zoom or other means made it so much easier to ensure people actually attend those meetings, and that's a good thing, really. So on that, Mr. Speaker, pleased to be supporting this bill, the Māori Purposes Bill. I commend it to the House.
Mr. Speaker. Simon Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The ACT Party commends this bill to our House. It's largely a technical bill, an omnibus bill for minor technical amendments to Māori Affairs legislation, modernising legislation, reducing administrative burdens and increasing autonomy for Māori entities. That's all in line with ACT values and with what this coalition government supports. Absolutely commended to the House. Mr. Speaker.
Te pika.
Tākuta Ferris.
Oti rā tēnā rā tātou katoa. Kei te whare tēnei tūnga tuatai oku hoki nei ki tēnei whare me ona whakaritenga kawenga e mihi tonu ana. Tikana kia mihi a te hunga katai anō ka wehe ake nei tō rātou rironga i a te maunga o Taranaki. Hoki rawa mai ki tēnei pire mō ngā mahi whakawhanake i ngā rawa o te iwi Māori. Ka tika rā mo tō tātou whare, me kaua rā tātou e tuku i ngā ture kia kohatu rāno kātahi whakatika hi ai. Kua rō te iwi Māori e whanga ana kia whakahuhia ngā ture e eke ai ngā whakaritenga o tēnā o ngā huinga tōpūtanga Māori, ngā kaporeihana Māori, e eke anō ai rātou ki te karamata-matatanga o tēnei me te whakawhanake i ngā rawa e mihi ana. Mr. Speaker, tēnā koe, it's good to be back. And I stand to take this call just to raise a couple of additional thoughts, not to reiterate things that have already been said. But the bill is indeed a good step forward, but I would think that the House is a lot more advanced than just leaving bills to become so decrepit that we're making changes to allow things to be done online in this day and age. But in essence, these things need to be done, and there are many significant Māori organisations that have obviously waited a long time for that to happen. So that's good. But we also feel that it's a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity to open a broader discussion around the needs, the Māori development needs of some of the significant Māori organisations of the country who have obviously been stymied for a long time. Māori development is a key thing in the development of the whole country, so it should be something that's on the top of Tamapōtaka's list. We also note that many of the issues that Māori are raising have raised from within the development field and many others like tiriti compliance and the ability of Māori to develop Māori land unhindered are things that need to be brought to the table for discussion. These are all things that enhance everyone's lives and indeed the production and economy of the country as a whole. So although this discussion is opened here in this omnibus type fashion, we hope that the discussion is continued on and broadened out. Discussion on, things or the needs, the supports, the inputs required, the resources, the capability required to enhance the continued development of the Māori economy is something that bodes well for the future of all in Aotearoa. As we've recently seen at the close of last year, it's $119 billion. I'm sure a few tweaks to some legislation in this House would help unleash that to reach new heights. So we invite that discussion. Mr. Speaker, we invite that discussion and we hope that the Minister continues this good work, keep these regulations and legislative conditions up to speed with where the modern world is operating at, and that the discussion around the development of the Māori society, economy, the lot of it, becomes a focus for the government leading into this year. Nō reira, e tautoko ake nei te Pāti Māori tēnei o ngā pire, tuku nei ki te whare, kia ora tātou.
David McLeod.
Tēnā koe e te pika. Mark this day, I actually agree with the member, Takuta Ferris. I think indeed what he talks about with regards to maximising the potential of Māori land, the Māori economy, all that sort of stuff, absolutely, I can't argue with that. Clearly we've got some other pressing issues as well, but hopefully that is something that the government can turn its mind to in the short-term future. But this Māori Purposes Bill, it's been well traversed. The Minister gave a very good opening of what this bill actually does and the many acts that it affects, and basically the modernising of how Māori entities can get on with their business makes absolute sense. And I do note the numerous former Māori Purposes Acts of 1939, 45 and 73 are also going to be repealed as a result of this because they're no longer have any operative provisions in it. But this makes sense. I'm very pleased for it to be coming to a committee that I've been newly elected to the chair of, the Māori Affairs Committee, and we will look forward to opening up for submissions as soon as we can and allowing people to provide their thoughts and support, or even if they feel that there is some strengthening of what this bill actually has to do as well. So with that, I commend this bill to the House.
Well done.